instant, he had seen the reasons for the Reach Antach's prosperity and the inevitability of its destruction. This came together just as neatly. Although she was blind, the community chose not to identify her as such. If she sold a merit chain for its silver value, she would be seen as the ruin of a fighting man. It would erode the goodwill on which she relied. Cete took the belt back from her. "I understand," he said. "If you wish to commission an embroidery," she said, "use the belt to earn coin. I will make something fine for you." "Thank you," he said, and he hesitated. The Reach Antach had made an alliance that the city clans would have to destroy. It might be in a day, in a month, in 10 years. But the Reach Antach would burn, and everyone who bore the name Antach would die. There was no reason for Cete to stay a moment longer than he had to. No reason to say his name within the walls of the Reach. "I am Cete," he said. "Marel," she replied and smiled. Her face showed the signs of long hours of hard work, rather than the untroubled smoothness of ease, and her hair was dark and coarse. She looked forward when she smiled, rather than to the side, and she showed her teeth, rather than merely turning up her lips. It was the smile of one man to another, rather than that of a woman to a man. But Cete could not help being struck by it. "I will consider your advice, Morel," said Cete, and with one last look at the embroidered sunset, he left. He had arrived at Reach Antach an hour previous, looking for somewhere to stay. The town was a fine one, built on a strong position on a hilltop, with groves of olive and apricot down on the lower slopes. From all reports, the silver mines were profitable, and the soil was black and smelled rich. The church was well built, with a scholar priest of the Iraman school sitting on the dais, her mantle bound up with gold and silver threads that told of a great lineage and notable achievements. When Cete had gone in for the afternoon services, he had let himself hope that the Reach Antach would suit. When the services were done, he knew that he would have to leave. The cities built the Reaches. They defended the walls as they went up. They provided dressed stone and cut lumber. They opened their storehouses until the Reaches could feed themselves. In return, the Reaches provided men and silver to the cities that had founded them until the debt was paid. Repayment took centuries, and the Reaches were always looking for quicker ways out. The method that the Reach Antach had chosen would never be allowed to succeed. Cete knew he had to leave, but rather than taking him to the gate that would lead to Reach Tever, his feet brought him to the Brotherhood Hall, where men who had no clan connection would look to sell their labor, and those who needed labor would go to buy. Perhaps the crisis he had seen brewing would be delayed, or perhaps he could find work that would spare him from what he foresaw. But while it was far more likely to mean his death, he could not leave Reach Antach, could not walk away from the glory of that mantle or the hope of having something that fine for himself. The Brotherhood Hall was not far from Morel's shop, and its iron-bound doors were open. There were a half-dozen older men inside, sipping cups of tea, chatting softly amongst themselves, and 3 times as many younger men standing in the artificially relaxed poses of men who felt they had something to prove. Exactly what one would expect from the Brotherhood Hall of a prosperous Reach. During the afternoon service, Cete had marked who had sat where. The man he had picked out as the factor of the mine, a thin man with little hair left and hands that showed no calluses, had sat among the scholars, perhaps overly pious, but not excessively so, and unlikely to risk the smell of dealing badly, at least not in the open. As Cete ambled towards him, the factor's eyes marked his merit chain, the fine-grained wood and thrice-forged steel of the axe Cete wore at his side, and the breadth of his shoulders. Not a fighting man, but a man who knew what to look for when evaluating warriors. "Come in,"